And without further ado, I'll pass it over to Chris Foster, our host, and let him take the lead.
Thank you. Don't start. I'm very emotional. I will cry. I'm just letting you know I will cry. Firstly, I want to say thank you to every single one of you that are here today. It's so important to me. Being a disabled person and a person, obviously, that was brought up with special needs, we don't get opportunities like this. So when we do, we have to be thankful, and more importantly, we have to be grateful. But with that being said, I have to really shout out people like Bradley and the whole team at Footpatrol. You know, stepping up and standing out is really something that's really important to me, because for me personally, they are showcasing what, you know, diversity and inclusion really looks like, and showing that type of representation is so important. I also want to thank, you know, the whole family at 2x Elliott. James, the other co-founder of Open Book. Can we just give for a moment, can we just give him a clap? James doesn't take any of the limelight. And in all honesty, as an ambassador as an ambassador who really kind of showcases, you know, individuals like myself and generally just wants to use our voice. There is people in this room tonight that really add value in my own personal journey. Joanne Dua, who has stood up for me this year, has done incredible things with going forward this year and really championing, you know, disability within our industry. But more importantly, I have to thank someone who, to me, is the key ambassador for me, and that's Isaac Harvey. Isaac is a mentor for me in so many ways. I was so nervous reaching out to him beginning of this year, and Isaac has showed me nothing but love. And last month, he had the opportunity to go to Buckingham Palace to be greeted with his MBE. And I just really want to say, Isaac, thank you, and I appreciate you. But with that being said, welcome to Inclusive Access, where everyone is welcome. Hi everyone, I hope you are all well. Guys, please introduce yourselves. Ashley.
You made me go first. Hi everybody, my name's Ashley Archer. I'm from London. I've been in the wheelchair for about 10 years. I had a very rare muscle condition growing up. And first and foremost, a bit about me. I'm into sports. That's where my whole journey started. That's how I felt comfortable accepting my disability. And sports started the journey for me to get somewhere and put me in a positive mindset, becoming a wheelchair user. And I'll tell you a bit more later on.
Hey guys, I'm Amy Conroy. I lost a leg to cancer as a kid. There were some sticky odds, 50% chance survival. Then found sport, and I've now been playing wheelchair basketball for 15 years. Have done 3 Paralympics and currently training for Paris next year.
Hi, I'm Richard, and I know I don't look it, but I'm in my 40s. And I've been to 4 Paralympic Games, Paralympic gold medalist in London, 2012, 2016, 200 metres. I also run marathons. I've run 78 of them. Marathon PB's 242 in Chicago. I'm trying to break that time. So even though I'm 47 and I did my PB 12 years ago, this coming year, I'm trying to do 235. So, yeah, I know. Technology's not changed at all. I'm just a badass that trains hard, works hard. And also uses my platform, just as obviously Chris, to amplify those messages to a wider audience. So as well as my sporting background, I also do a lot of humanitarian work. So I've been to Syria and Jordan with MSF. I've worked in Beirut, in Lebanon, with the landmine victims. And I do cross-Atlantic work with the armed forces as well, which is really important to me. And over the last 12 years, I've been gaining that toolkit, those experiences to give myself the experiences to have the platform in this EDI environment to obviously showcase, tell those stories of all people with disabilities, not just reflect my own. And through my foundation, the Richard Whitehead Foundation, and these platforms, try to support other disabled people have the ambitions and have the platform for success, but also the sustainable model of that is to go out into the communities and talk about diversity to a big audience.
Hi, I'm Carly Tait. I probably do look at I'm getting into my 40s as well. I am a retired Paralympian, so I retired in 2017. I didn't actually get into sport until after the success of 2012, so it's the likes of athletes that you see here today that definitely inspired me to even get into sport in the first place. So prior to that, as a typical sort of 27-year-old, I just had a bit of a party attitude to life. I didn't do any sport.
Which is good as well.
And then, so I did go to Rio, and then I did the World Championships, and then retired, and I had a baby, so I had a 5-year-old, and I have one on the way. Long journey, we're born with the blue time, so it's been quite traumatic. So what I do now, though, is I sort of do try and fit in both worlds. So prior to sport and prior to being an athlete, I was in marketing, so I did go back to that type of role after sport, but then it didn't feel very purposeful for me anymore, so I then went into diversity and inclusion. So I work for the JD Group, which Footpatrol is part of, so I lead the D&I team at the JD Group, which is a great role, so I'm really lucky to be here today. And like anyone here, just use my voice and my platform that I do have to try and raise awareness and try and offer a different perspective, quite an intersectional one, I suppose, being a mum and athlete and someone that survived menopause very early on in life. So yeah, kind of bring all that to the table today.
Thank you. I'm actually going to ask you a question a little bit later, actually, about being a mother and also having, cerebral palsy. I'll go into that a bit later on. But Ashley, I'll start with you if you don't mind.
Yep, what's happening?
So Ash, obviously I know you a little. I know you quite well, and I know your story.
Yeah.
But could you tell everyone how you got into sport?
Bit of a fairy tale, to be honest with you. So, bit of background. Before I became a wheelchair user, I wore leg braces. Most people know Forrest Gump, right? I used to wear those calipers. So I had those until 2012-ish. And part of my condition affects me from the waist down, and I've got a curved spine. So basically, the leg braces were making my spine worse. So I was in a very big dilemma of what to do. Randomly, I watched the legend right there, 2012, David Weir doing wheelchair racing. And I watched him win all the medals. And I was very inspired. I could see the determination, the passion. And I could see, I'm like, we're from the same place. I want to know who that person is. Cut a story short, I found a local club because BBC always said if you're inspired, go on the website. And if I'm totally honest with you, I never would do it. I'm like, But this one time I said I will because of seeing what David was doing. Cut a story short, I tried wheelchair racing in a local club. he knew someone who knew David Weir. He's like, there's a competition, you need to come and show yourself. I think I did quite well. Then I got introduced to David Weir's coach, Jenny Archer, and yeah, the rest was history, to be honest.
Thanks, Ashley. Amy, yourself.
How I got into sport?
Yeah, how did you get into sport?
So I was always a really sporty kid back in the two-leg days. Then got diagnosed with cancer, had a pretty tough year in hospital, and went back to school at age 14 and became very aware that I didn't look like everyone else. I was bald, no offence, braces, glasses.
I'm used to it.
Big old wheelchair, one leg, and kind of didn't really know anyone else with a disability, became really self-conscious. I think my dad noticed I'd lost my spark and took me to a wheelchair basketball session, and I think it sounds really cool when people first see the sport and they fall in love with it straight away. I hated it and I was rubbish and I couldn't reach the hoop. My dad kept taking me back, and it was the power of awareness, like seeing the GB women play on TV, and it was seeing that and I thought, hang on, you know, I look like them. If they can, why can't I? Why not me? So that was what kind of sparked my competitive spirit again to get back out there. So.
I love that. And I think to echo that, it's talking about that representation, right?
Yeah, it's powerful.
And I think that's so, so important. No matter, you know, if you're into sport, if you're into fashion, you know, seeing that representation makes such a massive difference, doesn't it? You know, and I think for myself firsthand, when I was growing up, you know, I saw no one that looked like me. And I was, you know, I always just felt I was the oddball. And when I started seeing more people like myself with Downs and seeing the fact that actually I can go out there and achieve things, it makes such a massive difference and elevates our confidence. So, you know, Amy, I get it. You know, amazing. You know, thank you. Richard, yourself, what is your journey?
Well, back in the day, yeah, when black and white TVs were around.
I ain't that far behind you, mate. I know.
So, my parents, from working class background, and saw the environment that I was growing up in, very white middle class, no real diversity within ethnicity, sexuality or disability. So to be able to thrive in an environment like that isn't inclusive at all was literally like starting from scratch. So they were quite revolutionary in their approach, and they were like, right, so we're going to look at the environments where we think we're going to put you in it, and then really kind of showcase who you are. And within sport, you don't have to talk the same language, but you have to have those rules of engagement, and I think my parents were very forthright on giving me those opportunities. So swimming and gymnastics were the first two that they kind of pushed me into, because in the swimming pool you're just thrown in literally as a 4-year-old, sink or swim, and obviously your disability is quite hidden in that environment. And then gymnastics was a bit of a showcase of actually there's a young lad here without any legs that's quite strong, and is going to showcase his talent within that strength. And strength's obviously shown in a lot of different ways, and I was quite shy and reserved at that age. And as I was growing up and understanding that platform comes responsibility, and those skills that you're learning through that process really do add to your resilience, add layers to who you are, and a real sense of grit and determination that I've developed through that process. And all those skills that I've had when I was growing up, I still look back at my first gymnastics coach, and he said you need to be stronger, fitter, in a world that is tough for people with disabilities. And we're obviously all here for our sport and lifestyle kind of expertise, but our disabilities don't go away. So when we come off the field of play, we still have our disabilities, so we still have those challenges. And I think knowing that, but also championing that and celebrating those differences is really important.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you couldn't say it better than myself. You know, and I look back at myself, and you know, I tried so many things, Richard. You know, I was just useless at everything, and I just.
I'm sure that's a lie, really.
No,
I'm sure.
honestly, I really was, and I think, you know, one of the things growing up with myself, you know, as being someone who was brought up sort of in a special needs school environment, our focus was more about communication rather than education, and it's funny that I'm here right now and we're using those life skills.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously within business and life, we all need to be better communicators, and the ability to communicate across different sectors is something that not everybody can do. But within our life experiences that we've all had, we've developed that skill set. So when I personally talk to employers about being more diverse and employing people from those diverse communities, and especially disability communities, think about not just only what the person you're employing and that skill set, but also those hidden skills, those hidden talents, those experiences that add extra value. Because everyone here with a disability on the panel and not in the panel have challenges and obstacles that they overcome every day before they step outside that door, push themselves out that door, and that adds value. That resilience is something that we can amplify and utilise into business.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely right. Carly, same question to you.
So I feel like my story is, or my route into sport is sort of a bit of a love-hate one, because it definitely was not something that I enjoyed. So I went to school, I went to a school where it was a mainstream school, but obviously for me I was the only one who was disabled until my sister joined the school, and she's got CP as well, which is just a result of my mum having very premature babies, and statistically it works out in our family, 1 in 3 of us do have CP. So when I sort of went to school, it was just, I didn't really have the luxury of my mum and dad knowing kind of how to deal with it, or how to empower a disabled child, and their lens was like, well, okay, it is what it is, so the emphasis was put on me. So the emphasis was always, you need to try harder, or you know, you just need to find ways to adapt, or you just need to ask for help. But it would never. The emphasis was never on other people adapting. So you go to school, you have to begrudgingly take part in sports days. You absolutely rubbish at it. You hate it. You learn to hate it, and then for me, I did hate it, and I had a very sedentary life. And I was okay with that, and I got to 27, I was a full-time smoker, big drinker, party animal, that's who I was, and I wasn't really apologetic about it, but I then saw the Paralympics on the telly, and so it was like, Richard, it's the likes of you, to be fair. I mean, I saw you on that screen, and David, I saw you, and I knew, for me, that I knew I wasn't going to be a runner. I knew that my legs weren't able to do what some of the other sports, you know, needed. So I instantly was like, oh, wheelchair racing. I feel like I could do that. And, you know, Channel 4 commercialised it, they did, and they sold out the stadiums, and they made it a celebration, but they made disability acceptable to the masses. So they did it in a way that I don't necessarily fully agree with now, but it did do something for me, because that representation is what got me into sport, and I always say that inclusion is what kept me in it. So if the sport wasn't inclusive and the way that we work as athletes was not inclusive, I wouldn't have been successful. But predominantly it was that representation of, oh wow, there's disabled people on the telly, and I think I'm going to go to the closing ceremony and watch it. So I did. So I went to the closing ceremony.
And I think success isn't all about gold medals as well. It's about those gold medal moments for everybody. And when I talk to like groups of young people or in the boardroom talking about having those gold medal moments, and for me that's when it actually started to realise that every person with a disability can be successful, and you can have those moments.
Yeah, if you're given the right opportunities. So I do feel that my journey was quite a lucky one, because I was working full time, so I financially was able to back myself. But equally, I was lucky because there was a coach in Stockport, 10 minutes from the house. Whereas actually, if I didn't live 10 minutes from this coach, my next option would have been Leeds. And if you're working full time and you live in Manchester, you're not going to commute an hour and a half, 2 hours.
You don't want to go to Leeds anyway, do you, really?
I'm not talking about it. But I was just lucky with the things that were there at the time. It was just, if those things were not there, I wouldn't have, as much as I wanted to be a Paralympian, if those things were not available, then, you know, even the fact that my coach had chairs that I've entered, like, I would not have been able to afford a £6,000 chair to start a sport like the one that I did. So it was a lot of luck.
Thank you. And I think that actually gets me on to the next question, actually, when you talked about representation. You know, Ashley.
Hello.
You know, I'm picking on you, bro.
Let's go, man.
You know, but who are the role models that you look to when you started getting into sport? I mean, who is it for you, and, you know, what pushed you and say, you know what, actually, I can do this, and I can do it at the highest level? Who inspired you?
David Weir. Big time, big time. I always say it every day, anything I do, I always mention his name, living legend, because somebody who can win medals and set up a whole academy and take anybody in and put that dedication and make me feel like a professional athlete. I went from doing nothing about sport to training 6 days a week. He gave me his chair, he won medals in, which was like a life-changing feeling. You know, I saw this guy on TV 6 months prior. I never thought I'd ever know him. And for someone to say, here you go, and we're talking chairs, like you say, about £6,000 wheelchairs. He's like, Ash, there you go, let's see what you got to do. And we went to Switzerland together. He's like, in my opinion, he doesn't get enough credit to me. And this is why I want him to be here, to say that I'm super grateful for what you've always done to encourage, not just me, I'm sure, like you said, Carly and his whole academy. And what I like the most about it for me is that outside of the sports world, for me, Chris knows I do a lot of modelling and whatever else for brands, and I work with the NHS helping more people with disabilities and encouraging. I've always stayed grounded, and I learned that from seeing him do that. So yeah, David Weir, 100%. I always say that. He knows that anyway. Nah, Dave's on chill mode. Dave's chill mode.
We'll get him to say something in a bit. Try. I know you well enough now, Dave, that I can pick on you. Amy.
Thanks. I guess, I don't know if it's a bit of a cop-out answer, because it wasn't really an athlete as such, but my dad has always been my biggest motivator, inspiration. Kind of as a kid, he was looking after my mum as she was dying of cancer, raising 2 young girls, working full time, and was still just the strongest, kindest person. He didn't let it make him bitter in any way. So I think he's taught me a lot about character and resilience and mindset, and a lot of kind of the qualities that you need to be an athlete and really stick with it when the times are a bit kind of crap. If I'm not, when they're a bit rubbish.
It's okay.
When they're so kind of when I went to my first tournament, and the coach had said to me that I'm going to have to take my prosthetic leg off to play in a basketball chair. At that point, I had not accepted my disability. I was wearing big old flared jeans all the time, pictures of me sweating on the beach in them, not a cute look, but I was just kind of so embarrassed about my leg. And when the coach said, you're going to have to take it off, like my big dream, I'd been inspired by watching it on TV, and it was what I wanted, but I just thought kind of absolutely not. I was mortified at the idea and thought I will never be able to take my leg off in front of anyone. And it was my dad who gave me the classic dad chat of, this is what you talk about, this is your moment, your opportunity. And then the moment kind of that I overplayed in my head all night worrying about it, when I did take my leg off, it was like, no one cared. Read the room, everyone's got missing bits and pieces, and just kind of all through the journey of kind of when, like I said, I wasn't kind of near any other teammates at the time living in Norwich, so it was after school on outdoor courts, all I could afford, in the rain, dog poo on my wheels, and he would be there rebounding my misses, wiping my wheels, and he's now kind of been through the whole journey, and I'll look up to him in the crowd wearing his stupid GBT cozy he'll always wear, just get a proper hat, but so I think he is the person who's been with me since day one, and probably one of my main why like the power of your why is quite good for motivation. And whenever I'm like, oh, kind of it's too tough, I'm thinking like, nah, for him, because his happiness kind of cheesily gives me happiness. So
I love that. I love that. You know, I'd also say the same thing, actually. Probably my dad is probably one of my biggest inspirations. Sadly, I lost him in 2013. But knowing how much he influenced me, knowing that, you know, he would not let my disability define who I am. And, you know, even as someone who was non-verbal till I was 8, and, you know, he'd always encourage me. Even if I wasn't speaking, you know, even if he would always be there for me and be a support network and stand with me in everything. And yeah, so I agree with you. My dad's probably my biggest role model as well. Richard.
Yeah, as you can hear, obviously representation for athletes and people with disabilities of our age has been really tough. I think that's evident that from what you've heard already, that the representation hasn't been there. Where now with working with brands, those proactive brands, those organisations really does elevate the opportunity for people with disabilities, that then creates that sustainable role models for the next generation. And also that because the disability community isn't from birth all the time, it can be from acquired disabilities, from accidents, illnesses, etc. So I think it's really important to have those role models, those individuals that represent those communities, whether you're an athlete such as myself in my 40s, or whether you're starting your career, have the responsibility when you put on that tracksuit or represent your disability to be really positive within your messaging. And yes, it's tough. We go through some really tough times, and some people with disabilities suffer all the time, and it's not being scared to talk about that, but also have that real opportunity and voice, like you talked about. It's really important to have that voice and to share those messages with a wider audience. For me, I didn't have somebody that looked like me, obviously this good looking, in the late 70s, and I remember kind of going through like school and stuff where my mates had like the role models of the time, and the Gary Linekers, the Ian Rushers, I'm showing my age here, in the football world. And I was kind of wanting that role model. And then when I was like 13, 14, I'd seen this story on TV called the Terry Fox story. Now, Terry Fox was a college athlete that lost one of his legs due to sarcoma, the same illness that Amy had. And that really kind of started to ignite feelings in my head to say, look, this person's going through this journey, and his whole mantra was that he wanted to empower the people that he was in remission with in his ward. And he said, I'm going to run a marathon a day to run from east to west of Canada. And he wanted every person of Canadian heritage that he met on that journey to donate $1 Canadian to his foundation to help other people like himself, and also sarcoma sufferers. Now, I watched that story, and it really taught me about that the power of sport is so engaging for lots of different people, and it's not about gold medals. And it's great that like myself and Dave have won Paralympic gold medals, but the real important thing is that when you've got that podium, that you can really utilise that for the greater good. So watching Terry Fox's story, that really as a youngster ignited my energy around, as well as trying to be the best person I can on the track or in the pool or on the basketball court. I wanted to be the best person I could be for the people around me and really amplify my disability. And I watched this film, and Terry Fox got secondary sarcoma. Those that know, sarcoma can come back and can be quite fatal. So Terry Fox actually didn't make his journey. He died on his journey, but has raised over 800 million Canadian dollars since the 80s. And that really showed me that I wanted to go on a similar journey, and hence the reason why I run my marathons. In 2013, I ran from Land's End to John O'Groats. I ran 40 marathons in 40 days for Sarcoma UK and Scope to raise awareness of what is possible, but also those charities themselves. So I think it's really important to utilise how you got into sport, and role models are things that maybe we haven't had in the past. But I think now it's okay to say we can be role models, we can liberate other people through our success, and hopefully you don't have to be gold medalists, but it's about kind of knowing that there's hope out there and aspirations for the future.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I mean, just to touch base on what you were saying as well, Richard, you know, I'm an 80s baby. I was born in 78. And
you're a youngster.
Exactly. I'll take that. I'll claim that. You know, but we hear words like, you know, inclusion. We hear words like representation. Well, I never had those words growing up. And, you know, as I was, you know, for myself, when I see the younger people here in the audience, and over here, it inspires me, because this next generation that is coming up, they are fearless and they are so authentically themselves, and it's so beautiful to see. You know, when I'm seeing that, and I'm so encouraged, you know, because I think to myself, all the fears and the anxieties that I held back for so long, and I see this next generation just thriving, and I'm so encouraged by it. But it takes the likes of you guys, you know, to be that light, to actually shine bright, so that next generation can come up and say, well, if he can, then so can I.
Yeah, for sure, and it gives that generation that authentic approach as well.
Absolutely.
And having those authentic messages from the likes of ourselves and brands that aren't about that self-conscious bias that we've had in the past around discrimination and EDI, and for me, the time is now to make that real social change, and the sustainable model of that is educating the communities around us.
Absolutely.
And I know that some people with disabilities don't like that responsibility, but I think when you've got a platform and you kind of grab it by the balls and go, actually, I'm going to make a difference, and that's what we're all doing, and I know a lot of you are doing that in the audience as well.
No, absolutely. Carly?
Well, I think I'll just add, I don't want to sort of like repeat things that have been said, but I think from my perspective, sport changed my life, but not for the reasons that people might think. So yes, I got fitter, and I was able to speak to more people, and you know, I was successful in the sort of rankings, if you like. I didn't get any gold medals, David said, so I'm a bit pleased at that, but I did.
You can have one if you want.
I tried. I was going to say,
I'll give you one of mine.
But I think my success came afterwards, so I identified much more positively, so I came out of sport absolutely identifying as a disabled person and being okay with that. Prior to sport, I was not okay with that. I did not want it normalising. I disassociated. I masked myself as much as I could. I mean, it was quite hard because you can see me coming a mile off, but for me, it was the role that I do now. So when I went back into the workforce after I decided to retire, I was finding it quite a jarring experience, and I was like, well, how can I be number 5 in the world in my class in sport, but I am really struggling to get a promotion at work, or I'm really struggling to access that meeting that you booked off-site with no parking, or why are people asking me questions about how I'm going to give birth? Like, it was just so weird, and then I started to realise that I just wasn't seen as human, and I think that drove me to be in the field that I am in, EDI, and that's what changed my life. So success doesn't always come. I think I had a really difficult time with the fact that, you know, I wasn't selected for major champs initially. I did get taken off the world class programme in 2017. to be fair, I didn't necessarily mind at that point because I did want other things, but yeah, I kind of really struggled with, have I actually been successful? I don't feel like I've achieved what I thought I was going to achieve, but I don't think I was actually ever meant to achieve gold, or don't think I was meant to...
You had gold medal moments, right?
Sorry?
You had gold medal moments.
Well, yeah, gold medal moment, exactly. So when we did the parade after Rio, that was a gold medal moment for me. Like, to be on that stage and literally look behind me and there is Jessica Ennis. Like, that would not have even entered my head at 26 that I would be doing that. So, yeah, my successes come afterwards, and like to anybody else, that representation, I think that's what's driven me into the role, because I just think these barriers that we experience are not our fault. It's you, not me.
Well, yeah. You know, that actually is quite a good segment, actually, that leads me to my next question. And that's about mental health. You know, being someone who does suffer with mental health, but also what that is for people with disabilities and how it looks very, very different. So, Ashley, I'm going to come back to you again. I'm going to just keep following up this way.
It's all right,
so I'm just going to keep picking on you, mate. So, Ashley, you know, growing up, I know there's many trials and tribulations that come that way, especially, you know, having a disability. What was your mental resilience? And just go a little bit into depth, if you can, you know, talk about your mental health journey to get you into the place where you're at now.
I'll be totally honest with you. You know, my disability, obviously, you can see it's physical. I've got a wheelchair, right? But it affected me mentally way more. And it's all about how you look at yourself, how you perceive yourself. Am I doing enough? Have I achieved anything? And no matter what I did, I never felt I did good. And I didn't realize it was like a mental health thing. I just thought that's just how I am. And as time went on, and I started to do successful things and do things what I thought I'd never do, people would pat my back. And I'd be like, why are you patting my back? I don't get it. Like, what did I do great? And like, you know, you just met the Queen, and you just done this, and you done that. And especially where I come from my background, I don't know no one else who's done that. None of my family's ever done that. But in my mind, I still felt like there's nothing. And then I realized that it's all about your mindset. So my friend sitting right there in the white tee, he's been one of my closest friends since I was 17. He saw my potential from a music aspect, from all different kind of things. And he always told me, listen, you got a lot for you, but it's just your mindset. You're blocking yourself. You need to know how to love yourself and value yourself. And that's what I've always struggled with, no matter what. Do you know what I mean? So I think where it kind of hit the turning point is that he said something like, rise above it, man, come on. And that's where we end up setting up Rise Above Limits as a organization we set up recently. And that's my attitude. End of the day, I like to say I'm a stand-up guy that sits down. Because when I come into your space and your environment, you're not going to pity me. You're not going to feel sorry for me. You're going to look at me and say, who's that guy? He looks like he's on stuff. And that's what it was for me. So it was all about that mindset. Yeah, you don't see it, right? I know you see it, Chris. But that was the whole point. And it was like, I got to a point where I felt, my disability is not going nowhere. It never is. It is what it is. So either I live with it or I just call it a day, right? So I just had enough of it. And I thought, look, use my disadvantage to my advantage. What can I do? You know, and then that's when I met David Weir and going to Switzerland. I don't even know what Switzerland was. What's that? And I remember sitting with him in the car, like looking at mountains, and he's done this millions of times, and I'm in awe, like, wow, you know, wheelchair life's not too bad. And then I got into working and getting fully employed and working for one of the best wheelchair companies, etc., and a lot of positives. So I always taught myself. I grew up around a lot of people who had nothing wrong with them, shall we say, but their attitudes were wrong. And they didn't do anything. They were doing a lot of bad stuff, or they weren't doing things that was encouraging. So I thought, well, if I'm sitting down and I change my mindset into a positive space, let me see what's happening. And look, I'm sitting with you, so I think I'm doing something all right. Love that,
man. Love that. And, you know, seeing your journey over the last few years, man, it's been incredible.
Vice versa, man.
Honestly, guys, he's amazing. I love you to bits, Ash.
Yeah, mate, come on, man. But I have a question for you quickly, though.
Okay, cool.
If you don't mind, you got to flip it, guys. I know you've been through a lot, and I know you don't really say too much about it. But can I ask you how you deal with mental health and how you still encourage people to do what you do and set up things what has never been done before? I don't know if you guys ever been in a situation and seen an event like this before. Shout out to you and Elliott, 2 times Elliott for that. How do you deal with it? Oh.
Put me on the spot. Okay.
James, sorry, that's it. James, 2 times Elliott, James.
I think I'll just start from, say, 2020. You know, I sadly had cancer in 2016, and through the stress and strain of that, I ended up having a mild stroke, and it broke me. I'm going to stand here and not going to stand here and lie to you. It absolutely broke me, and I think for me, where I was just generally on a spiral, you know, coming down, and you know, I won't go too much into it, but I lost my job to disability discrimination in 2020, and I lost myself. And I think when I met James, who's had a massive impact on my life, I don't want to embarrass him, but James really kind of taught me the fact of, he really taught me just focus and the importance of focus. And he gave me that when we started the platform of Open Book. And it started from 5 simple daily goals, but more importantly, being kind to myself. And through those 5 mental goals was just waking up in the morning, making my bed. 1 goal. 2nd goal, just going for a little walk. 2, preparing my breakfast. I know this sounds really weird, guys, but just preparing my breakfast. 3. 4 was literally just reading something that was a little bit inspirational. 5 was genuinely just being kind to myself daily. So that would be treating myself to something. Now, that was in 2020. My Google Sheet right now is till next year. So it started from 5 simple goals, adding on those 5, it just literally got to the point of where my schedules is just schedule after schedule after schedule. And that really aided my focus and really understanding that mental health is something that, you know, I'm always going to live with. I suffer with depression. Depression can't be cured, but it can be obeyed. And with that, for me firsthand, it's really changed my thought process. And within that thought process, getting understanding that actually all things are possible, all things are possible. That for myself has really been a massive impact on me over the last, say, 3 years to get me into the position I'm at right now and the job that I do as well. So really, it's just 5 simple goals. So anyone here that is struggling, you know, just be kind to yourself, set yourself goals that are obtainable, seriously obtainable. Don't turn around and say, I'm going to have a multi-million-pound company next week. That's not obtainable. 5 simple goals, and you'll go out there and just smash it. Amy.
I don't know how to follow you two. That was both amazing. I guess echoing what you said about a positive mindset, something that kind of learnt from my dad. Like often you can't control the situation, but you can always control your attitude and how you react to things and kind of how you narrate what's happening to you. Like some things are objectively quite rubbish that happen, but when you kind of tell yourself, this is so awful, I'm never going to get through this, you can kind of feel more awful. I think there's a lot of power in McCormack's like active optimism, like an unwavering belief and trust in yourself that you can get through kind of anything and it will pass and you will get through it with more resilience. And again, like kindness to yourself, to others. I think probably the lowest I've ever been with my mental health. It wasn't like disability related as such. It was something that I went through with a coach that went on a few years, and it was pretty horrific, and I felt really trapped, and all my usual like positivity mindset control that like weren't working, and obviously he was an authority, and it was just, I felt guilt and shame and just told no one, and it was something that was occupying every kind of moment of my day, because basketball was my life and he was in charge, and it sucked. And something that I kind of learned from that and would say to anyone to like, and I know it's oversaid, but speaking up. And there was a moment when kind of I couldn't see a way out, I didn't really want to be around anymore, and I kind of got the courage to speak to a teammate about it. And I remember before she even kind of hyped myself up for it, and before I kind of have even said it, she'd said some kind of unkind things about people who struggle with mental health. I think she'd used the word nutters, and that was a really powerful, dangerous moment. And I just thought, okay, I can't tell anyone about this. I was so worried about what people would think of me. Like, was I asking, like, had I done something to like encourage this coach? And so I think just something that stuck with me is, apart from like deserving that you're thinking you're worthy to speak out if you're struggling, is just the power of kindness. And I think it can be, like we talk about it a lot, but it can be forgotten about in like busy, success-driven lives. Like I remember one moment, kind of when I was a kid, I spent an entire year pretty much in hospital, and one time on a precious night at home, I got rushed in the middle of the night. It was really scary, and I remember it was about 3 a.m, and I was going around this roundabout, and these women like shouted out the window at me that I was beautiful, and in hindsight they're probably drunk, don't remember it. I didn't feel beautiful at the time. I had my little bald head, and I remember just beaming, because and like I'm still like waffling about that moment to this day. It like stayed with me, and it's just like the absolute power of kindness, and just like, it's so cheesy, but just like, you don't know what someone's going through, and like one smile or little comment or compliment on a tube can really go a long way. And same with like a negative one. So I think that's kind of what I found has helped me with mental health.
I think you just hit a very valid point there, Amy, about kindness, you know, and what us not necessarily understanding what everyone is going through. And I think we need to take something from that, you know, and especially in the signs and the times that we're living in. I mean, we need to smile more. I mean, I was just saying to Richard just now about the importance of, you know, of actually changing our language. And but yeah, we need to be a little bit more kinder. We don't know what everyone is going through, and that doesn't matter if it's from a disabled person to a non-disabled person. We just need to be a little bit more kinder. Richard.
So again, kind of I look at my kind of mental health journey and how the trauma of discrimination has really moulded that, and that's something that I'm looking into quite a lot at the moment, about trauma, how trauma affects you, and whether that affects you in that moment, or that actually down the line kind of rears its head and has that effect. And I'm a very strong person, like some people would say unbreakable in certain circumstances, but I would say I'm affected by historic trauma of discrimination, and maybe those comments, those actions, like you kind of alluded to, maybe those jobs that you went for and you didn't get, those opportunities that your able-bodied counterparts got in front of you because they judge you from how you look, or how your disability would have a negative effect on that role or that responsibility. And that for me has been something that I've thought about, especially over the last like 5 or 10 years. And as athletes as well, we have scenarios where mental health is just really affected as well. So imagine within your life you have that euphoric moment of success. You're standing, in my instance would be London 2012, in front of 80,000 people singing the national anthem and kind of celebrating that moment with you. And then the next day you wake up and you just go, I want that to happen again. And the likelihood is it doesn't. Those that have been successful more than once within sport do get that moment. But athletes sometimes have such a massive crash, after those euphoric moments, and that might be within all our sports or all our lives, and how you react to that, especially when we have all the pressure of success. The medals from London 2012 had a lot of financial benefits for the national governing body. So London 2012 Paralympic Olympic medals, £1.2 million went into those national governing bodies for those gold medals. So when you think about impact, you think about responsibility, you kind of kick ass, you have the national anthem, you get your medal, you share it with your family and friends, and then that moment you're on your own, that's when what next happens. And for me, it's always been about this moment's not going to define me as a person. It's going to liberate me to do what happens next. And I've had some really challenging moments in my life, and as you go through those challenges, like the other panelists alluded to, it is about having those real achievable goals that are to some people quite nominal, but we all need to have those to have structure in our life.
Absolutely.
And structure is really important, because without structure you have chaos, and within that chaos, that's when just things break down. And I'm a very busy person, as you know, with my training, my foundation, and if I had 9 days in the week I'd be able to fill them, but that doesn't mean it's right to. And we need to look after ourselves, we need to appreciate ourselves and spend more time with the people that we care about and we love, our families, our friends, but also love ourselves for who we are, and evaluate how we're having that positive impact on other people, which is also really important, and know that we're all doing that good job for other people as well as ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you spoke about trauma. As someone who goes through trauma counselling, you know, it's really important. For me personally, I think counselling is very important. You know, what is your viewpoint on counselling?
For sure, having that platform to be able to not be judged, be able to say anything that you feel you need to say, and you haven't got that environment at home as a person with a disability, and we all have those abilities, and we all have those challenges, obstacles, barriers, abilities, disabilities. But when you've got another layer to yourself, you find it hard to then express yourself in that manner that you want to. I think it's really important that you have that platform to not keep those feelings inside you, that you're able to express that yourself in a very safe environment and a non-judgmental environment. And I think it's important to have that. And if you feel that's right for you, and it's not right for everybody, I definitely would encourage the opportunity to seek counselling, to whether that's for your own growth or whether that's to dissect things like trauma, or just have a voice of reason, a voice of a different attitude that can really kind of, you can come out the other side of that door feeling, I've got hope and I've got ambitions for the future, and now I've got a path to actually achieve them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Carly?
Well, I feel like, so my personal opinion is that mental health and mental illness are two different things, and I've experienced both for different reasons, and I think my mental health was always underpinned by my experiences, so a little bit like that trauma aspect that you're talking about, but my mental health sort of masqueraded in terms of self-confidence, self-belief, self-worth. You know that question when people try and get to know you and they say, oh, tell me something really interesting about yourself. And I was literally, every time I would get that question, I didn't actually have a goal in life ever until sport, if that makes sense. So I just didn't really know who I was, and I didn't really kind of have anything that I felt worth mentioning, so I just kind of was like, oh God, what do I say to this question? So then I would be like, well, I've got 7 brothers and sisters, and then that's quite unusual, so it kind of became a talking point. So my mental health was more around my own self-worth and how I felt about myself. So when I found sport, I kind of felt, oh, this is giving me some sense of purpose, and I'm enjoying this, and actually I can do it well, which is not something that I ever thought I could do well, but I was always judging myself to the standard of the non-disabled community. So when you're in school and you get your helper to hit you hit the ball in rounders, and then your helper runs round the bases, how is that sport? It's not sport for you, it's just somehow trying to join in. And mental illness, well, actually, the sport did support with the mental health a lot, but mental illness for me was triggered through the menopause journey that I went on when I was 30, and I was actually in Rio going through menopause, but I didn't know. So that hormonal imbalance and the impact of all that is what triggered massive depression to the point where it was a crisis point, and that is where it was like, right, okay, what do I need here? So it was medication, it was that counselling, which I'd never experienced before. So that's why I have sort of almost 2 different perspectives on it. It's like illness is not always in your control, and there might be things to support with that, and I think mental health, again, is not always in your control, but there are outlets where you can try and support yourself, whether that's friends or family. For me, I didn't necessarily have that network, so sport became my family in that sense, so that's kind of where I found my little community.
I love that. I think my next question, I'm going to fire back this way to give Ashley a little bit of a break. What is your relationship with other Olympians? You know, for those who are, other Olympians, but not, Paralympians. What are your relationships like with that? And how can we, get more interaction, I would say, with other non-disabled community?
So it's really strange because I didn't grow up in that sporting arena, and so I did put Paralympians and Olympians on a bit of a pedestal, and I was very in awe of them, and it feels weird that I am one, but it's almost like, but every time I see one, I'm like, oh, there's a Paralympian or an Olympian. I still kind of hold them in that regard, and I feel like with the non-disabled community, that's where there is a lot of acceptance in that space, which is great, that non-disabled people do often feel that disability is normalised through Paralympians, but I kind of wish, my sort of hope is that we shouldn't really be expecting every disabled person to be a Paralympian or to even want to do sport if that's not what they want to do. If they want to do something else, that's totally fine, and we should find a pathway for people to do that as well. And I just kind of want it to be a bit wider spread, so that yes, there is a platform that we have, and it is a great platform, and we can utilise it for the good. But I want us to look beyond that as well, and just, I think it was Tanny Gray. I mean, I could be totally missing this quote here, but Tanny Gray said something like, "Everyone reserves the right to be rubbish at sport. Like, you don't have to be brilliant."
I'm crap at table tennis.
She actually said something else, but I'm not allowed to swear. So I won't swear. But she just sort of said, you don't have to be the top of your game. And I kind of appreciate that, actually, because for me, when I saw Paralympians and Olympians, I was like, oh, so that's my route to success. Yeah. I didn't actually have any burning desire to be a sports person. And it's kind of the reason why I've not gone back into sport either in that kind of level, because I appreciate it, but I don't want to do it now. So I kind of, when Tanny Gray says stuff like this, I kind of think, well, yeah, maybe we want to do it socially, and that's okay.
Thank you. Richard?
So first of all, obviously, Olympians and Paralympians are good at what they do. And only a small percentage of those reach the top of the podium to be gold medalists. But going back to what we said about having gold medal moments, and everybody can have gold medal moments, everybody in this room has a gift, and it's about nurturing that gift. But one thing that I struggle with is that we all put people that are gold medalists on a platform, on a podium that identifies it as successful. But a piece of information I'd like to share with you is that everybody that's a gold medalist isn't a nice person. Everybody that's a gold medalist isn't somebody that you aspire to be. And that's important, especially when dealing with brands, organisations, about representation. And it's about getting to know the individual, what is their why, and understanding their core values, their mission, and getting to know why they're doing what they're doing. Is it for themselves and that self-gratification, or is it for the bigger mission? And that's what's really important to me. I'm lucky enough to be great mates with Mr. Weir over there and some of the Paralympic athletes and some of the Olympic community in lots of different sports, because we share stories, we go out sometimes partying, we enjoy our own success, coming back on flights from like games and getting quite drunk. Like in Rio, we drank the bar dry, in Rio. I could tell you some really bad stories about Rio. Would you like to know them? Yeah.
Of course.
We haven't got a big audience, so it's fine anyway.
Go,
it's quite intimate, right? Yeah, no, so, yeah, we got very drunk, and then we're doing like handstands on the plane, in first class, like doing handstands on the plane, and like we were doing that with Channel 4, and like half the crew in Channel 4 were like semi-naked because we were very drunk, and all kind of things were going off. So those are the kind of relationships we have as Olympian and Paralympians, where you share that success, and then you really get to know people. And for me, those skills, that time, that 4 years or that 8 years you've been training for that one moment, you deliver, and then you need to enjoy it. And just because you've got an impairment or disability, or just because you're an Olympian and you've really focused, doesn't mean you can't be a human being.
Absolutely.
And enjoy the fruits of your success. And hopefully when we associate with brands, that the brands not only get the golden moments of that individual, but they get to see what makes that person tick. The families, the support mechanisms that have provided them with the energy and the sacrifice. We don't sacrifice anything. The families and the community sacrifice things for our success. And then after the event, we can really enjoy that together.
I love that. Guys, I think that gives a bit of a round of applause, actually. Amy, question to you.
Thanks. Completely agree about people wanting to know what makes people tick. I think, from my experience, or something I would love to see is people viewing Paralympics more as elite sport that it is. From my experience when working, and not everyone is like this, but from a few experiences with brands, if you've got Olympians and Paralympians there, sometimes the questions towards the Olympians will be kind of about your 5 a.m. wake up, intense training, nutrition, like elite athlete mindset stuff, and then they'll flip the questions to the Paralympians and be like, so talk about your daily struggles with the disability, and it's more kind of like the inspiration side, which is also great as like, you know, motivation for people. But I'm just so passionate about the Paralympics and how hard people work, and I see like all the lows and what people push themselves through. And sometimes I'll say kind of that I am a Paralympian, and people are like, oh, that's cool. Do you train? Do you train with us? It's like, yeah, like every day, like a lot. So I think it's great. Kind of, I'd never want people to be afraid to do the wrong thing, because I think it's always better to do something than nothing and maybe get it wrong. And I'm not saying anyone's got it wrong here, but just something I'd like is maybe like more balance with the attitude towards kind of the Paralympics sometimes. Like
I think some brands also, when they're doing that, they're doing that for that able-bodied audience. So it's not, we talk about empathy, and a brand would want to portray a disabled person to an able-bodied audience when they're representing the community for disabled people, which for me is completely the wrong way to go around it. You need to listen, and then that community needs to be heard, and then you need to paint that picture for that disability community, which is completely different to what happens.
Absolutely, and just to add on that, I think we have to have more disabled people within that room, right? I think that's the most important thing, especially when we're having that conversation. You know, I have a saying, and that is, growing up, I'd have people that would speak for me, about me, in front of me, but it was never my voice. And I think the very fact of the opportunity that now that I've been given the mic, that it's actually now my voice being heard.
You like it, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. You know, I think, you know, but more importantly, it's showcasing that real authenticity. And I think that's what every single disabled person in this room wants to see. Genuine, real authenticity. And yeah. Ashley, I'll pass the mic over to you. I could go on, Ashley.
I'll keep it short and sweet this time, but exactly what all you guys said. And for me, it's just about authenticity, and like you said, getting that respect level with like elite athletes. You know, when I first started wheelchair racing, I'll tell you a funny story. David was in the park about 7:30, 8 in the morning, and I was like, "What's the program?" He's like, "Oh, I'm doing about 40 miles." Excuse me? What? Why? How? Because that's what elite level is. And I feel like when it comes to disability, like you said, it's about representation of authenticity. I never classed myself or like a special person because I did loads of miles or compete at a higher level like you guys. And I think we're just hardworking people. And I feel like it's either one extreme to another. Either we're classed as people who don't do nothing, lazy and blah, 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 or we're some superhuman beings because we've done sport. We don't call Usain Bolt a superhuman, and that guy was the fastest runner I've ever seen in life, right? We call him a dedicated, hardworking athlete. That's how I look at David. That's how I look at everyone on here. So I think going forward in this, with the brands, because I've modeled with many brands, it's the same thing. It's just authenticity, because that's what the future needs to see. Because I work with a lot of children with disability who might not ever be able to do Paralympic sport or nothing like that, but they want to see, oh, hold on, so you maintain, you live, you work, or you do, wow. And especially with parents, it's showing a true form of disability has highs and lows, advantages, disadvantages, but don't overdo it. It's because he won 6 gold medals or whatever the case is. You can ask David, he's the most humblest person I met. He just works hard. And I think that's what needs to be shown more. And like you said about the brands, where certain audiences, they over milk it, and I don't like that kind of situation because it's not authentic, and that's why certain situations I wouldn't do because of that. And we have to stay true to our people in our situation, because if we expect the outside people to get involved and want to help with us and work with us, you have to be honest from the gate and be more authentic. And this is why I'm here. This is why we're all here to represent that.
Love that, Ashley. Again, I think that deserves a round of applause as well. Sorry, mate. I know. But yeah, it deserves a round of applause. My next question to you, Ashley. You know, what are your hobbies outside of sport? What do you enjoy doing, man?
You know what I like, man. I love making music. Music has been something what helped with my mental health. From producing music, I used to MC on pirate radio stations when I was like 15, DJing, something me and David we have in common, and I like to do things to encourage people, and so I use my social media and platform to discuss and just showcase realness, what's going on, hey, how do you drive? Because a lot of people see wheelchair guys think you don't drive, or how do you live on your own? And and that is my passion. I feel like what Carly was saying, it was just at one point growing up, I always felt lost. I didn't feel like what my purpose was. And as I got older, I realized that I feel like my main purpose is to encourage people, but without overdoing it, just natural. This is what I do, this is how I survive, this is how I maintain, and realizing that it helps people, that's my pleasure, man. And I used to like fashion and buying loads of clothes and wasting money, but we don't do that no more.
Lies.
No.
Honestly, that's lies.
I'm calm, man.
You're really not. Again, I know you, bro. I know you.
Look at your footwear, sir.
Okay. Amy, I'll pass it over to you.
I feel like outside of basketball, I'm kind of all over the place. When you're talking about without structure, it's chaos. I feel like I'm very much chaos. Since moving to London, I've just been like trying to say yes to everything, whether I've got any like talent in it or not. Did a Paralympians come dine with me, came last. There was no talent in that. Subpar, spaghetti bolognese. Twitter were really mean. But I feel like I've just been kind of going for everything, really, because basketball is very kind of dead set on schedules and things. Currently launching a business with my sister to run wheelchair basketball away days. But again, kind of out of my depth, as we were like registering it, we had to Google like what are shares, what is dividends. So again, just kind of trying to go in the deep end for things, and just you regret the things you don't do. Apart from come dine with me,
that.
probably regret that.
Love that. Richard.
Okay. I've got my foundation, which I'm obviously passionate about, and we work across like 3 areas. So going back to my 2012 success, at that point I could have had a charity that really represented just myself. So white, disabled person, amputee. I didn't want that at all. That wasn't who I was. I wanted to have a foundation or charity that was very representative. So from that time, from 2012 till 2 years ago, immersed myself in the minority communities, BME, LGBTQ+, homeless, humanitarian, really kind of put myself into really vulnerable, uncomfortable situations that made me think about who I am, made me question my core values, really start to give me those tools, get people around me that are like-minded, that enabled me to, when the time was right, to have that foundation, to have that charity that was representative, that was intersectional, because as we know with the disability community it is, and within those barriers and obstacles that we have in our life and those layers, there is challenges as well. So that 12 years has really kind of helped me kind of educate myself so that hopefully I can educate others. And the 3 areas that we work in is education. So it's obviously really important to educate those youngsters all the way up through to people that are miseducated around disability and aren't diverse. Obviously employment, there's lots of issues with employability for people with disabilities. I taught PE for 5 years. 0.5% of the workforce has a disability, and that's a real issue when seeing is believing. If you're in a classroom with a teacher that is white, able-bodied male with no diversity, that is really difficult for a diverse class to be educated by. And then the other one's participation, obviously, having a participation model that incorporates anybody from the disability community. And my charity, my organisation, my foundation is nationwide, so really going into those hard to reach communities that I've worked in over the last 12 years, and those are the individuals that I want to support and liberate and show that there is ambitions out there, there's hope, and give them the platform that myself and other Paralympic athletes and other successful disabled people have had. Now, on top of that, I think it's really important, like you said, to have your own kind of time, and having my time with my family is really important, to really work out who I am and to enjoy life with my family, and unfortunately with busy people, you really do neglect yourself, and you really do neglect the people that have supported you get up to the level that you are at. And knowing the people that have really supported me in my community, the last couple of years it's been really important to spend more time with my children as they grow up, and my mum and dad as they've got older and they have more needs themselves. And I think that's really important as well, because one thing that everybody in this room will have an impact by in their life is disability. We will all have a debilitating condition or a disability that will affect our life. So paying it forward at this level is really important. Educating yourself is really important, because you will all have value from that.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Carly. Yeah, thank you.
So I enjoy choir life now, because well, as an athlete you are, it is quite a all-consuming thing. You live, eat, breathe it, and I think I enjoy slower life. But I really love travel, and as much as I travel as an athlete, you don't necessarily see it to the extent that you do when you do it just for fun. So travel is a really big passion of mine. When IVF doesn't hemorrhage all your money, and then I think, to be honest, having a 5-year-old with a bigger social life than me is actually quite an adjustment. Like, he came home from school the other day, he'd literally just gone to school. He came home the other day with 2 invites for the 13th and the 14th of January, and I was like, right, okay, so that's my weekend in soft play. So I can't give you a specific hobby because I don't have that time, unless we are travelling as a family. I think I definitely delayed personally having children through that lens of, yes, I'm in sport, but I didn't think that I could be a mum because of what I'd seen or what I'd heard or people's expectations of you, and when I did become a mum, I found it really, really hard, because I was like, oh, how do you do these things when society is not built for disabled people? And the idea of a disabled mother or a disabled dad is a bit like beyond some people's comprehensions, and I struggled, to be honest, to integrate. It took me a while, but then it was worth the struggle. So I feel like he's a lot of my purpose now, and I put a lot of time and investment in him because I didn't have that growing up myself, and I don't want him to experience that. But also, from a disability angle, I believe that it's an experience. So I often say that I feel like my walking's a bit irrelevant to the whole disability conversation, because it's not about my CP. And often my son experiences disability through me. So like, no love, we can't do this because there's no parking, so I can't walk that far, so I can't take you here. Or like, if someone's got an attitude about something and it holds me back, and sometimes it holds him back. And that's kind of what I focus on, is how do I, outside of all these duties of being a mum and working full time, like how do I then make it better for him as well? Because I read some research the other day, and it was about explicit and implicit bias, and it was talking about how different communities have different trajectories of bias, meaning that bias will eventually disappear for certain communities, like generations, we're talking generations. And it was saying something along the lines of, if the disability community doesn't have the impact of a social movement along the lines of things like Me Too, for example, and other movements, that it would take 200 years to neutralise implicit bias. for disabled people, and I was like, 200 years? Like, so that's not even in my lifetime, that's not in my son's lifetime, it's not in his son's lifetime. Like, how long do we have to wait here for equitable opportunities? So I think when I do get the opportunity to do stuff like this, although for me I am here in a work context, I do feel like this is a bit of a hobby as well. I really enjoy this. I'm just like, let's remove that bias, come on. Like, we're not waiting 200 years, people.
No, we're not waiting 200 years. You know what, Carly, you're absolutely right, and I will probably get a bit of a cheer for this, but it's gone are the days where we need to, to kick down the door. We need to start taking off the ceiling, because for me firsthand, I've gone through so many trials and tribulations in my life, Carly, and I get it, and I know the frustration, and I know firsthand that what our capabilities are and what we can do, and I think it's time that we stand collectively in one voice, so we can then bring forth that real change that we so desperately want to see. But I think with that being said, I think it's Q&A time, so I'll pass it back to Brad, wherever he is. Here he is.
I mean, I don't know why you're clapping me. I've just taken a microphone off Chris. I think if we can give everybody else another round of applause, so please. All right, who's got a question for our lovely panelists then? I'll pass the mic back to them, and then I'll run around like a headless chicken and pass the mic over to you. So go on, don't be shy.
Come on.
Oh, I've got one in the far corner. Right, we are coming. Here you go. Oh. Here you go, sir.
Oh, sorry. I should bang on here with the mic, shouldn't I, really? But, guys, thank you very much for your honesty and openness and speaking from the heart about change. My only question now is, when's the second event to change the narrative now you're taking off the roof?
Well, it will be the third event, because we did an event last year. So it'll be the third, and let's hopefully more to come for next year. I have big plans, and I'm not. My foot is not off the gas yet. I have not even started.
Come on now, don't be shy. We had loads last year. Oh, we got more. Oh, I got here.
So, first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone for being here, because for someone like me who had no idols as a kid growing up and nobody to look up to, this is lovely to see, and I hope that something like this will, inspire future generations, because I think, the be-all and end-all of this is to give back to the next generation. So I hope that things like this give us an opportunity to do that. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I want to ask the panel, I'm in a sport that's very unique. So I'm a para-jiu-jitsu athlete. There are not many disabled people in the world of combat sports. It's looked upon very weirdly because we're seen as very fragile, but I'd like to think that we're the furthest thing away from fragile. So in terms of getting this sport off the ground and making it big, what would your advice be when it comes to that?
I'd like to just pose that question to Carly, if you don't mind, just because obviously you have CP as well, so Carly.
Yeah, so getting a sport off the ground, I mean, I've never done it, I'm not going to lie, so I don't have any sort of true methodology, but what I do sort of have is, when I came out of sport, and I felt like I wanted to create change in the workplace, and I felt like, oh, do you know what? I can't do this all myself. I can't be the single person driving it. So I focused my energy on finding communities and allies to create some of that change with me. So I basically went on a bit of a roadshow within my workplace to storytell, but also to drive home the impact of why I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and what the benefit, not necessarily a commercial benefit, but why do we need to do this? And so I sort of went on a bit of a hearts and minds journey, and was able to get the buy-in from allies who eventually supported me in what I wanted to do. And I think in a sporting sense, it's about finding your community and making sure that you also leave the door open for people who don't necessarily know if they want to do it or not, but they might want to just be involved in the movement and enabling that. So finding your allies in that space and then just trying to influence people, I think, is quite a key one. But I think the biggest message is it's not just on you to fix or to solve, and it's about finding those people who can solve those problems and finding those people who can support in what you're trying to do as well.
I would say it's obviously a combat sport, so you need to amplify that as something that's a positive. Also have all your role models within your people that have got those kind of voices, give those individuals voices across lots of different platforms. Sell your story to a bigger audience, get advocates in both Olympic and Paralympic sports. Be brave. You can be as big as you want to be, but it's about being ambitious as well. I think within Paralympic sport, it's not ambitious enough. No, we're all ambitious, but sometimes the sports don't live up to that ambition. So amplify the ambition that you've clearly got to then unify your community to be bigger, better, stronger, and obviously as ambitious as you want to be.
Anyone else, please? Start out. Can we just get for anyone that doesn't know?
Yes.
Yeah, she has to come out. I'm sorry. I know. That's right. I'll get you around. Just for context, last year when we did this event, we had he's not with us here today. We had a very inspirational young man and his twin sister design this particular T-shirt for last year's Inclusive Accents event. And this lovely lady here is the mother, and without her we wouldn't have been able to have this sort of key part to our activation last year and that T-shirt. So please, it's making me choke up. Actually, honestly, it was such a moving experience. But yeah, by all means, take the microphone.
No, and it was thank you, and wonderful to be here, and thank you, Bradley. And it was such a privilege, and James as well, Chris, involving Hannah and Jacob last year. It was such an impact on them. Being part of something so special, and to be here, it is for me as a mother raising Hannah and Jacob, having Jacob with a disability. He has a rare syndrome, he's deaf. And you see, this here, and listening to such powerful messages, Jacob's not going to be happy that I'm here, and he's not here to see you, Ashley.
I know, Chris, tell him I said what's up.
No, he's a massive fan of Chris and Ashley. And, there's an interview that you've done together, and Jacob watches that on repeat, and I sometimes wonder, what is it that he is so obsessed with, because he was watching it over, and I could always hear Ashley and Chris's voice in my house. Right? And it was Jacob again, and he, you know, children today, he just knows exactly how to go onto the phone to access and to watch that video and repeat. And it's, you know, it's identity, isn't it? There's something quite powerful in the way that Jacob just really relates to Chris and Ashley, and there's Jay as well, with, you know, when they came and met your sister, you know, it was really powerful for them last year. And, you know, as you know, with listening to such powerful motivational messages, inspirational role models for our children, and the change that is needed for our children that are growing. And something I'm passionate about is the education system. I've had the experience of seeing Jacob in a mainstream school with his twin, with Hannah, and it's a broken system for our children. And it still is a broken system. There isn't enough change for the inclusion that's needed for them to thrive. I went through a real battle, which a lot of us parents will say is a battle, for the sense of inclusion that they need. I removed Jacob from the mainstream. He's now in a special needs school, and I think just from being in an environment where he has got that sense of identity, there are educators around that understand Jacob's needs, and so just from being in an environment where he feels included and happy and celebrated, he's learning. And there's been a huge difference. It's a different child to say, you know, that he's now reading, he's writing, he's got a sense of confidence. So the importance of inclusion is huge for our children. So the question is, you know, what can we do as a community to force the education system for the changes that are needed for our children in, you know, bringing Ashley, I tried to ask at the mainstream school for Ashley to come in as a role model. And they, you know, they don't listen. They don't see it as important. They don't create enough changes that are needed to bring in role models. Like, you know, to have something like this in the education system, once a term even, you know, you're not even asking for much. Just for our children to see and hear all the powerful messages that I've heard today to encourage and inspire. But the education system has got a ceiling. You know, and there's a lot of work to be done. So, you know, with such, you know, influential, which you are, you know, what could be done really in that sense?
Well, exactly what you said. It's all about what you see, right? You know, growing up, my time in school, it's all about listening. Now kids see everything. Like Tree said, he always goes on the phone and watches the videos of me and Chris. It's about what you see. And, you know, I work in the NHS, and crazy as it sounds, I'm the only guy in the whole country in a wheelchair, providing wheelchairs in the NHS. Funny as it sounds, right? So I'll go to, like you said, I go to special needs schools, and my day-to-day life is just like everybody else. I just crack on, right? But I don't realize the impact it has. And I've had schools from all boroughs saying, look, I'd love for you to come in and talk. And I'm like, about what? And it's the life you live, it's how you do it, it's encouraging, it's identifying. And like you say, your son, I love him off. He's somebody who I watch and think, whenever I feel like quitting this journey of who I am, he's somebody who charges the battery. Because at the end of the day, he's the future, right? You know, I have a son who doesn't have any disabilities per se, but it's about changing that mindset. And I think schools make excuses sometimes, and I just feel like you can't buy it. And the reality is, like you said about kicking down the door, is it, or the roof? Yeah, well, I'm trying to roll over it after in my chair. But the point is like what you said, is that I've seen your son a handful of times, and you feel the energy. He feels like, hold on, I'm not the only one. And that was always something I struggled with and always felt like I was. So I'm hoping that people seeing things like what we're doing and these events and so forth, schools can say, let's get you in. Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't care about the money side of, oh, you've got to pay me to come and speak. Let me just come and speak. Because if it's going to help your child, anyone's children, in the disabled world as well as the abled world, then it's priceless to me. And I think we need to see that. It's not just about going to special needs schools and to people with disability. It's kids with no disability. Because I go to my son's school and they don't batter an eyelid that Ash is in a wheelchair. He's just like, that's Kai's dad. And that's the whole point. And then that would take the stress off the parents over worrying to think, oh, don't ask why he's in a wheelchair. Why not? That's my life. Hello. It's not a problem. Because kids are pure. They're open-minded. So that's how you grab them from that young age to change the whole journey of this, I call it weirdness. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, to answer that, I think the reality is having more people like ourselves going into schools and having parents promoting that and talking about it, asking the question, why disability is always on the back burner of life situations. That's what I want to know. So, yeah, I think we need to do more of these things and be able to come in schools and do it.
Oh, I got time for 3 more questions. Oh, we got one. Fantastic, sir.
First of all, I would like to thank Chris for inviting me here today. I've known Chris for about 6 weeks. I met you through Isaac very recently, and Chris just messaged me last week and he goes, "Can you come to this event?" Very carelessly, I didn't Google any of you. I had no idea what this event was about. So I'm sitting here thinking, wow, I'm very impressed. I'm also a father of a severely disabled child who's 17 years old now. I have had my own mental health challenges as well. I set up an organization that invests in people with disabilities that have great business ideas. And Richard, to what you were talking about employment, I set up an organization that helps people with disabilities find jobs and create meaningful careers. So what I just want to do today, Chris, is offer my support in any way I can to what you guys want to do and anyone else in the room wants to do for disability. Because the thing that you mentioned about a movement, I really agree with a movement. There is something that needs to happen. The talent that I have seen in the last 8 years is monumental. It's monumental. I've met disabled people that are smarter than non-disabled people. And the world just needs to hear it, right? So the more of us that get together, the more of us that collectively do something, the more change we'll get. So Chris, thank you for today. Thank you for assembling this amazing audience and for inspiring me.
Oh, we got one at the back. Fantastic. Bear with me. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the lady, I've got a disabled son, I'm also neurodivergent myself, and that battle is a constant battle that we have to go through. But I think we actually need to go one step further, because I feel like I meet some very, fantastic, wonderful humans. And, labels, as our founder at the Valuable 500 always says, are for jam jars, they're not for people. And what's really important, I think, is how do we change, and I'm about to say this and please don't come after me as a comms person, but how do we get this media to really understand, to remove the negative stigma that comes with the word disability? And what I ask of that is you, all 5 of you, have spoke so eloquently this evening and been such positive role models in the way in which you've kind of got on with life. And I think what is really worrying and damning is the fact that we see statements being made that you're better to work from home if you're a person with a disability. And I think what I'd really love, I don't know what that magic solution is, but what is it that we can do to elevate, the likes of Isaac, who is an MBE that you've just talked about today? I want to see that on the front paper. I don't want to see that as an afterthought or having to mention it in something that's not getting the spotlight. How do we engage the media to finally talk about these sort of things that I think support our young children to feel like they can really embrace the world and what it has to offer, rather than nothing against Love Island, but seeing what a person from Love Island is doing?
Obviously a great question and very relevant, and holding people to account is really important, and whether that's government, whether that's the education system, which is broken, like you said. There's not enough places in SEN schools, there's not enough training in mainstream schools, there's no diversity within the teaching structure like I talked about before. But it's about holding people to account, and us as a collective is calling people out and not be afraid of that, and not be afraid of ripping that roof off and really kind of shouting out that that's not true. And we need to be empowering people, not suppressing people, not saying you stay at home. We want you to go out there and express yourself, and that for me is really important. So for me as a person, I was lucky enough to have that platform within my sport, But hopefully if I wasn't a sportsman or woman, I would be something else that would give me that platform, whether I've got a disability or not. But because of my disability, I feel I'm a stronger, more powerful person than I would have been as an able-bodied person, for sure.
I just wanted to add, as a fellow comms person as well, is that the media thrives off engagement. It thrives off salacious sort of headlines and that kind of clickbait type of narrative. So it's about kind of, yes, calling it out and not engaging with it, but also trying to teach people what is wrong with what is wrong with the representation, or what is wrong with that headline, or why is that headline not something that we should be perpetuating. And I think fundamentally that also does come from having that representation in that media room. So it's quite clear when you see some of these things that you don't have any, you barely have any disabled talent on your team if you think that you can get away with that, because if you did, you wouldn't be as empowered or as freely able to write those things. But I do think as well, I think non-disabled people really have to sort of take stock of what they're absorbing, because I think in the world of social media it's really easy to desensitize yourself to some of the narrative, and you start kind of agreeing with it, or you start kind of being like, oh yeah, all these people, they're just so lazy and they don't do anything. And you can kind of, I mean, I don't think that, but over time people could think that. And so I think it's about asking non-disabled people as well to really sort of just take a bit of a step back and actually just think, if that was you, written about you as a person, would you accept that? I'm trying to just be a little bit more, just put a bit more humanistic with it.
To add on that, Ryan, to answer your question, I think the government need to clear up their own house, because even the website alone is not even accessible. So before they start even talking about disabled people, take face value and look at your own selves before you start criticising and making real judgment. To add on that, to see real media representation within our television, right? I think we don't see people that look like me. And we could turn around and say, oh yes, but there's that one Down syndrome person that's on TV. Amazing. I'll ask that one question. What is their name? Case closed. This is why it's so important that why the disabled community can collectively come together to create that change. Yes, we want to see the change in front of the camera, but we also need to see the change behind the camera. And this is why I feel it's so important by having these conversations with the right people in the room that can actually go out there and bring forth that change. And I think we're doing it. And I know firsthand, Ryan, the work that I know that you do. If you don't know what Valuable 500 is, please go and check out what Valuable 500 are doing, because they are literally changing the game. So Ryan, you're absolutely right, mate. But let's collectively come together in one accord and bring that unity and see that change we so desperately want to see.
I've got a question, if I'm allowed.
Go.
Richard, you said something about gold medal moments, which actually really resonated, because the opportunity to celebrate yourself, it's quite difficult to do that, regardless of who you are. I think celebrating yourself is difficult. But one of the I suppose the nice parts of these events is the fact that we always do it at the close of the year. And we're at the end of 23, so what's the gold medal moment for this year for all of you? Silence.
Not a prepared question, right? So, for me, would be the realisation that anything's possible, and So within my community of running, it doesn't sound too inclusive, and in certain respects, within certain events, it hasn't been. And so my foundation have come together with major running events, and we now are offering a supported runners program. So anybody with a disability that wants to access these running events, pushing events, walking events, jogging events, will now have somebody that supports them in that journey to make it a successful journey for them. So it's not even personal to myself, and that is what I've always wanted. I've wanted to talk about legacy and the word legacy, and it doesn't really resonate with me because I don't think I've got that at the moment. But I think to be able to lay the foundations for the next generation to be more physically active, to be more socially active, mentally active, to have that support for not just people with disabilities but also educate the community around them to be more diverse, and we've talked a lot about kindness and empathy, which is so important, because within the systems that we've talked about, whether it's education, whether it's employment, whether it's participation, there's still a long way to go to get to where we're going, and we need to have people like Chris and ourselves and people in the audience to be continually pushing the boundaries of what is possible. But this year has definitely shown me that anything's possible in life, and every time I think about like volunteering and the work that not just myself but also the team that I've got around me are doing, it always makes me smile, and that smile for me is worth 10 times any gold medal that I've ever won. That's the honest truth.
What was my gold medal moment? Oh, I've got many.
Chatting to me, yeah.
So, this year has been a monumental year for me. My personal journeys. Last year was groundbreaking when we did our event. Especially coming off the back of what I've been, dealing with my own mental health, and I was gonna go into this year, and I was like so forceful, and I was like, yes, I'm gonna really, really push open book in an amazing way. And the 3rd of January, my mum had a stroke. So at that very moment where I was thinking, right, I'm gonna take flight and I'm gonna go out there and do this and do that, bam, I was like, oh my days, this wasn't part of the program. This wasn't supposed to happen. But you know what? James taught me something. I did a post about this, and that's about, again, going back to what I said earlier on about focus. And my brother reminded me about remaining focused. And when I think about coming off the back of this year to going, with work, and how work have really encouraged me, and Joanne, I know, you know how much I love you, Joanne, to creating those opportunities to go out there and speaking at Pay 360, Money 2020, speaking going to Vienna, speaking about, diversity and inclusion within employment, and having the opportunity to speak about open book, for creating those conversations to then speak to meet Darren from MasterCard, and coming off the back of that to then pull this together at the end of the year. I look at myself and I think to myself, Chris, you ain't done bad, you ain't done bad, So I think that's my gold medal moment, mate, if I'm honest.
Rest of the panel, would you like to answer the question? Any gold medal moments?
I had a bit of a whopper leg surgery, like a re-amputation in June. So all the goals went out the window. I was watching the world champs from hospital. All the goals went out the window. It was kind of in quite a lot of pain, so didn't do too much. And today's one of the first days I'm like walking again, so just getting my confidence back with that. I know it's quite cheesy when people say, oh, everything happens for a reason. It's kind of passive, but I think often kind of you make the reason, so I had more time on my hands to do other things, such as kind of starting this business. I want to say, for the education idea, like my sister and I would love, we have a bunch of chairs now, would love to go into schools and run wheelchair basketball. Like, obviously we wouldn't be wanting to make money from it. I know my kind of PE days, I went from being the kid that was kind of going for all the school sports teams, going back to school in a chair, and I was just in the corner because I was dangerous for other people, throwing a ball against the wall. If they were playing tennis, it would be a tennis ball. So I feel like kind of that would help. Like, I think you said something really powerful earlier about sustainability as knowledge, for like the future. So I guess starting with schools and kids kind of being like, wheelchairs aren't something to be afraid of and scared of. Like, basketball's a fully inclusive sport, all kids playing together in a chair level playing field, like redefining strength. I feel like we could switch details afterwards. And also I was thinking for the is it para jiu-jitsu? Absolutely, if no one else is doing it, why don't you do it? Run a taster day. We'll also switch contact details. I get my team down, we could promote it on social media, get like disabled community involved. Like, if no one else is going to do it, let's try and make something happen. Yeah, we can promote it.
Gold medal moments for me, I would say exactly what you were saying as well, Amy, about schools. You know, when I started working for the NHS, I got to meet a lot of different people with different disabilities, young kids and everything else. And I've done a campaign recently with the government which got good responses, bad responses. But what the positive thing I loved the most is that when I went to this school, for example, I had about 20 kids from the age of 11 to about 15 all come up to me. They knew who I was, and they saw me on the t-shirt, on the billboard or whatever, and they were like, I like what you're about. I want to be part of what you do. How do you get involved? You encourage me, you help me. Their mums are coming and give me cuddles, and it's very overwhelming because, like I said at the start, I've always never saw what I was doing was good, if that makes sense. So for me, seeing kids like that, and a mum pulled me over to the side and she said, why don't you do more things to like set up a business of some sort, which me and my business partner here has done. And it is about encouraging and helping kids and doing basic things. Like, I had a mum say to me, can you teach my son how to get up a step on a wheelchair? I was like, yeah, sure. And he looked at me to think, wow, you're actually going to teach me? And I taught him or whatever else, and he was over the moon, and the mum was messaging me saying, thank you, you helped so much. And that was one of the best moments for me, because like I said, I've always been about being open with my disability. You can get trolled on the internet for it these days, as you know, whatever. I don't really care about all that. As long as I encourage somebody, or children, especially the youngsters, that's my passion. And I felt like I did that a lot this year, and it kept me going to next year. And yeah, what you said, like I said to Teresa as well, I would love to do it. You know, I play all different kind of sports. I think we should all come together and help and get that mindset with the teachers and the children. So yeah, my goal moments, I would say, is mingling with the youngsters and encouraging them, showing them self-belief, and even talking to the mums who worry about their children's future as they get older, how to look after yourself, how to self-maintain, etc. I got to do that a lot in my job, and I used to jump in my work van with the most emotions because I know I left a stamp on somebody, and I think that's how the future changes, leaving a mark, not a moment. So, yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, I'm very open with personal struggles, but I think one thing that when I found out that I was infertile after trying for a second baby, and the reason being menopause, that was a big shock. And obviously, being so young, it felt really unfair, and with that came a lot of other complexities as well that I had to navigate. And the way that I sort of combated it was to obviously go down the medical route and try and keep myself well with that. But then I kind of have a sense of resilience that's been built by disability, but then resilience on another level that's been built by sport. and I kind of refused to accept at the time that I wasn't going to have another child, and I was still young. And so when I got the diagnosis in COVID, the first thing I did was Google fertility clinics and like, how do you have a baby when you literally can't have a baby? And took me on like a 4 year journey of failure. That people say things like, you know, like when people say, oh, you battle this or you battle that, I kind of felt like it's not really a battle if you don't have any control over it. Like, because it's not a battle, it's not fair. So you're not battling something, you're just having to navigate a really awful situation. And then for me this year, after a lot of failures and it not working and having to deal with that, I would say that the gold medal moment was seeing the line on the test after the 2-week wait of just desperately hoping for another baby, and it kind of came true, and I feel like I sort of put myself on hold for a bit while I wanted to achieve this next dream of having another child, and I've been able to. I mean, we've still got 8 weeks yet. I'm still panicking because I'm a bit like, well, it's not here yet, is it? But I'm kind of like, yeah, gold medal for me. It was a very personal sort of victory of trying to get what I ultimately wanted. And you know what? I don't necessarily feel like I drove any of that, other than trying to keep myself resilient, because ultimately I had no control over it. So it either works or it doesn't, and that was a really hard realisation. But I'm just very blessed and very lucky that I got there in the end.
I have a question for David. This is a simple one, mate. I know. Just one simple question I always wanted to know, actually, since I've known you from day one. How did you always stay humble with all the success? Because you've done groundbreaking, as you know.
I don't really know myself, mate, to be honest. I'm just an easy guy. I was brought up on a council estate, and the reason I got into sport is because I saw other people getting around and doing sport that I wanted to do. So a guy saying about jiu-jitsu, I wanted to do boxing, as my brothers were, boxers, professional. So I used to go in the gyms and mess about with the bags and pads and stuff like that. But obviously you didn't see anyone doing sport. I'm just humble because it's just me. I don't know why. I love what I do. I'm still doing it now. I'm 44. I'm catching up with Richard a little bit. And I just love helping people like yourself and the academy. And you're talking about, gold medals this year, and a gold medal is, my academy every year. And seeing youngsters doing the sport that I've loved since the age of 8. And that's my dream in the future, is to grow the academy, not just in London. We've probably got the best academy in Britain, and that is the dream to go forward, is to see the next generation win gold medals like me. And it's not about just the gold medals all the time, it's about seeing people succeed in life. I hear stories about kids struggling with sports at school, sitting in the corner, not doing anything, and when they come to our academy they feel like they're part of something. And I get a buzz out of that, seeing them train and seeing them smile. And we've got like a little community. So I just love doing that. And that's my dream, to build the academy and make it, around the country and helping people do what I do. But the question of me being humble, I don't know, mate. I'm just me.
I appreciate that.
So yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone, and of course our lovely panelists that have been here today. I still can't believe we're here for another event, second year in a row. It's been a privilege again to work with Chris and to work with James on to putting something on like this, and to think we were able to elevate it this year and be able to have, what I can only describe as an even more powerful conversation that we did last year is an utter privilege for myself and everyone in the Footpatrol team. When we first brought the community department into our business, we very much wanted to stand apart from what that meant, what community meant. A lot of retailers believe that it's easy to put people into a room and talk about product. And we really wanted to change that narrative, and we really wanted to celebrate the people that helped us. As a brand, we've been around for 21 years. How can we give back to those individuals that have helped us get to where we are? But at the same time, there's a lot of individuals that don't get their praises sung because of whatever reason, and we really wanted to create a more inclusive and a more, what I can only describe for myself is I want to create it as a normality, to have these conversations, to have these individuals around us constantly, whatever the topic of the conversation is. So I can only thank everybody in here for coming and supporting us, and supporting everybody, and supporting Chris and supporting James on their endeavours in Open Book. So if I can get a big round of applause for Chris and James.
I just want to add something.
Go on, mate.
I meant to say this in the beginning, and I forgot. So please don't crucify me. I want to thank the whole team at Open Book as well, because two of which are obviously not here, Chloe and Tirza. They live in the Netherlands, and they also have been a massive part of the platform. But Charlie here, who is here, Charlie will always be Open Book family. He's been there pretty much from the jump and from the beginning, for those who may not necessarily understand my slang. He's been here pretty much from the beginning, and I just feel it's just really, really important that I add that, because they are just as much as part of of this platform, even though they're overseas. So I just want to say, mate, I celebrate you, we see you, and we love you, bro.
So to bring this panel talk to a close and let everybody enjoy themselves and everyone start networking for all these new fantastic opportunities that we now got at the back of this, I just want to give a fantastic, a massive thank you to everyone in the audience for joining us today. Like I said, these things wouldn't be possible without you coming to support and help us push these stories as much as we can. It's a privilege to have you all here, and thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed yourselves.